even though the script was written many, many years ago, how do you look at it when you look at what's happening in the US today with a president that sort of promotes racial tension? You have Charlottesville, you have also a president he doesn't want to build a fence, he wants to build a wall. So it must be a lot of sort of things that sort of go with American society of the day that you didn't think of when you started doing film.
Well, the genesis of the screenplay started by I was watching a lot of speeches on the campaign trail about building fences and scapegoating minorities, and I started looking around at other times in our history when we've unfortunately fallen back into these things, and I found this story that happened in Levittown, Pennsylvania. And we were looking at trying to make, Grant and I started looking at trying to make a film out of the Levittown, Pennsylvania story. And then I remembered the Coen brothers had written Suburbicon. And I thought it'd be kind of the perfect match to have looking the wrong direction while, you know, when you talk about making America great again, America great was, everyone assumed was the Eisenhower 50s. And of course, it was great if you were, you know, white, straight, male, but other than that, it probably wasn't so great. And so it's fun to lift up that curtain and look underneath that thin veneer and see some of the real problems that this country has yet to completely come to terms with. And I thought that was a fun way to explore those same issues. Unfortunately, these are issues that are never out of vogue in our country. We're still trying to exercise these problems, you know. We looked at the idea of talking about these issues because these are issues that we consistently have to deal with. I grew up in the South in the 60s and 70s during the civil rights movement, and we sort of at that time thought we were putting to bed a lot of issues. Segregation was going away, and we thought we were putting these issues to bed. Of course we weren't, and we have these eruptions that blow up every few years, and we realize that we've still got a lot of work to do from our original sin of slavery and racism. The idea of juxtaposing these two was to say you're looking in the wrong direction if you're blaming this African-American family for all your woes. You know, I think that some of us up here on the panel are able to speak to the idea of men, white men, feeling that they're losing their privilege and blaming it on minorities, when of course it's nothing to do with that. So we at least have seen it growing up. Grant and I certainly are of an age that saw it. Probably Jules too, a little bit. She's too young. She's much younger. So I think that putting this insane family in the middle of this story, or putting this great piece, this great story about the Myers family, and putting that inside this insane story is a better way of putting it. Seemed right. It feels right to have a movie where you're looking in the wrong direction on this, and that's why we did it. Yeah, it is an angry film, and I think films in general, you know, some people will always say, what are you trying to say with a movie? The reality is, in general, it takes 2 years to make a movie. So by the time the movie comes out, whatever you were railing about usually has moved on. And films, like a lot of pieces of art, oftentimes, are really used to put a pin in a time and a place in history so that we can look back and see how we felt and where we were emotionally and sort of physically, where we were. That's when films work really well, I think. If you go to our country, depending on which side of the aisle you sit on, it's probably the angriest I've ever seen the country, and I lived through the Watergate period of time. There's a dark cloud hanging over our country right now. I'm an optimist. I think if you could tell that actually by the end of the film. I actually do believe in the youth, and I do believe that we're going to get through all of these things, and I think that the institutions of the U.S. government tend to work. We see them work with the press, and we see it work with the legislative and the judicial branches of the government. But people are angry, and a lot of us are angry at ourselves, angry at the way that the country is going, angry at the way the world is going. And this seems to reflect that, and I think that that's okay. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that's probably a fair thing to do. You know, the idea that it's, you know, we didn't want this to just be this polemic that is just a civics lesson. We wanted it to be funny. we wanted it to be mean, but it's certainly angry, and it got angrier as we were shooting.
Yeah.